Welcome back to another really exciting video. So in previous tutorial we already covered the designs of this logo and everything. In this tutorial let's talk about how to animate this logo like this. So for this one we are going to use Cinema 4D, and I don't know anything about this, but I just chat with iDesign, the EJ on Twitter. So he gave me some suggestion. Based on that I'm going to create a tutorial on Cinema 4D. So you'll get a very smooth and very smooth animation and the gradient on your animation. So anyway, we already designed this thing, so just create a new Illustrator artboard and just copy our designed logo and paste it into here. Just Control C, Control V. Now we don't want any effects here, so make it black. So change all the color into black, and we don't want any this width tool, so just remove all this width tool. So to remove the width tool, change this thing into uniform and this here into basics. So that's all, and change the stroke value into 1 point. Here you will get the basic shapes, so that's we need to Cinema 4D. Now you have to save this file, so just go to file and save. You can rename whatever you want, just name into Apple logo 2021. And here this is very important, change the version into Illustrator 8. This is really important, otherwise you can't import the file into Cinema 4D. Just open your Cinema 4D and just drag and drop your Illustrator file into here. That's all. Press OK. So you can see your spline here, the shapes here, but it's very small. I just create a new box to compare the size, then select this thing, or say updates, cancel, and choose the select scale tool and just scale our shapes. And if you press the middle mouse, you can access these 4 windows. Then go to front view, press again middle mouse in the front view again, then adjust, then press again. You can, if you press the middle mouse, and you can access that 4 view. That's all. So anyway, we just delete this box and just drop into the bottom, and we don't want this. We just need this path 1 and 2. That's all. So path 1 is our main, path 2 is the leaf. Just understand. Now if you don't want this, you can just disable this world axis also, so no disturbance in our work area. So let's start creating a cylinder. Just create this cylinder, and you can adjust this cylinder radius from here. Also you can adjust the cylinder radius, and also you can change this shading into line, so you can see all these all the lines and the segments. So if you go to this object, you can adjust the radius from here also, and also you can increase the height of this cylinder. And also if you want to increase these segments, you can increase this height segments value here. You can add a lot of subdivisions. Also the rotation segments means you can add these rotation segments here. It will add more segment. Yeah, that's all. And go to, now it's very sharp ending, so if you want we need the round corner, so just tick on the fillet and increase the radius into 9 and segment also 9. So now you will get very round ending. And now just create a spline warp and make it under the cylinder. Now select this spline warp. Here you can assign our spline here, so just drag and drop the path 1 into here. Might be you will get something like this, so don't worry. Go to spline warp and change the axis into, just test with everything. In my case it's plus y axis. Now the problem is very low subdivided, so go to object, increase the height segment, so you will get very smooth option shapes. Now the problem here, you can see it's already stretched, so to fix that, change the mode into keep length, from fit spline into keep length. Now you have to increase the total height of this cylinder, so select the cylinder and increase the cylinder height until you reach this point. Yeah, so that's all. Now you can change the display into the normal shading, and you can disable this preview in viewport by clicking here. And now the problem, these shapes are intersecting, it's overlapping, so it is supposed to be underneath the first layer. So to adjust that, just disable our spline warp and our cylinder from here, and select the path one and choose point editor. Now you just have to move this point into backward. So if you open our logo, you can see it's in behind actually, so it's behind. So just select and move backside, and select this point and move into backside a little bit. And also you can adjust this handle to make it smoother. Select this point, move to backward, and adjust these shapes. So that's all. Now you have to do the same thing with other area also. Adjust the point and move into backward, because we need that depth here. That's what we are creating. Now here we are done. And also now here is also in behind, so choose this point. So I'm going to fast this video, because you know the technique. Just select the point, pull into the behind and adjust the bezier also here. So we are done. Now if you turn on our cylinder and spline warp, we can see now everything is fixed. But the problem, some area you can still see it's not as smooth. So select this point again and adjust your bezier until you get the smooth spline. And here also you can see small issues, and adjust the spline and bezier, and here also a little bit problem. Now go to cylinder, turn on. I think it's almost look like fine. Now we have to change this, just rename into main. Now if you press the old control key and click and drag, you can duplicate the same shapes and change this spline into path 2. So you will get the same thing for your leaf also. But the problem, just reduce the height of our cylinder. Yeah, I think this is fine. And path 1 and 2 has to be in bottom. It's not necessary, but I'm just rearranging the layer structure. Now we are almost create a new material, create a new standard material, and double click. You can access the properties and just turn off this reflectance and also the color, because we just need luminance. Just turn on the luminance, because we need flat colors, that's what, and apply into our main shapes. So you can see the very flat white color. So we have to apply the gradient. So click here and go to apply the gradient. And if you click here, then you can access all the gradient properties from here. And also you can drop down and you can access the color options from here. You can load preset and you can apply whatever you want. So for the reference, I'm going to apply this gradient. Now the problem, I'm just adjusting this gradient. It's not necessary. Anyway, we'll choose the right color from the Illustrator. So the problem, the gradient position is not right. So you can change the type into, I think 3D linear is not good. Change the type into 2D vertical. See, you'll get the proper gradient along with the path, and change the angle into 180. Then you can start from green to blue if you have any problem like this. So this is the basics of gradient in luminance channel. And also, if you want to apply the same color, you can use the eyedropper, but the problem, you can't choose this Illustrator color palette. But there is one solution. Just reduce the window size and open our Illustrator file also, because in the previous tutorial we already create this file. And yeah, make the windows like this, both are visible. Then select the first node and use eyedropper. I'm going to change the angle into 0, make it default, and select the first node and use eyedropper. Then choose our green color. Now you can, if you want to create a preset out of this, just drag and drop that color into our preset window. That's all, if you want. Anyway, you already know how to use this eyedropper and everything, because the previous tutorial I already explained everything, how to do this thing and everything. So just create the same color palette here also, based on your Illustrator color palette. Use the eyedropper, that's all. And now the problem with the leaf also, to apply the gradient for that, I'm going to duplicate this thing. To duplicate this material, just hold the control key and click and drag. You can duplicate this material, double click, and we have to go eyedropper this thing. I think there are a lot of nodes. Better go to gradient, load preset, apply any 2 color gradient, select this and use eyedropper, change the color and add a new nodes in between and select the colors. And also we are done. If you want to save this preset, this gradient preset, you can save this preset by clicking this save preset button. So then later you can load these colors whenever you need. Anyway, just save your preset and apply into the second color. Here the problem is the different direction. So you can change the angle, or you can change this node. You can just swap the node. Yeah, that's all. So we are done with our basic logo and the coloring. Now we have to adjust this size of our thing. So go to Spline Warp and just drop down this size. So I will tell you what is this. So if you move down this graph into graph, then the size will decrease. So this is, if you move down the end size will decrease. So you have 2 options. One, just control click, you can add a new point and just select these nodes and move down the starting and beginning, but the top always, the middle point always in top. That means the center value will be high. So this is one method. You can adjust around this. I think better than this, we can just remove our, I'm just making Control Z and just deleted this center point. So better just choose this handle, select this and change the handle like this. Then you will get more width on the center of our logo. Then change into the beginning, something like this. Now you can add a new point by hold the control key and just click. You can add a new point. And also sorry, you can adjust the values something like this. If you notice that the logo animation, you can see the end value is not thinner, it's little thicker like this. And press Ctrl and click another here and add another point. But the thing is, it has to be little thinner, so just move down. So anyway, you can adjust your shapes size from here, the spline warp, and also you can reduce the size and everything. So we are done with that also. Now let's start animation. So if you choose the spline warp, then object, here on the top you can see from and to. If you increase the from value, it will start decreasing from the beginning, so just make it 0. If you adjust the to value, it will start from the beginning. Actually we have to animate this to value because our animation is something like this. So choose the first frame and make the value 0, add a keyframe, then go to the 90 second, so not 90 second, 60 frame, add value into 100 and just make the total timeline duration into 120. Also I think you can increase the total value 75. I think you can increase a little bit more, make into 90, change the keyframe position into 90, so the animation will become 90 seconds. Okay, now here you can add a keyframe, and at the, I think at this point you can adjust the size a little bit smaller and add a keyframe. Also the ending we already add one keyframe, and also what the beginning, see here is a little weird, so adjust here, make the proper size, add a keyframe. Now you can solve that stretching problem, so change this keyframe into the beginning, move the keyframe into beginning, that's all. Anyway, we are done with the basic animation. Now if you are facing, you can see the gradient color is actually it's stretching. It's not supposed like this, it's supposed to be like see, it's before that, and we have to add some ease and ease out, ease in our logo animation. So just watch the video, you can see the smoothness of this animation, something like this, the ease. So it's very important in animation, it's one of the animation principles. So to add this smoothness here means the slow things here, so add a keyframe here, from here to here it has to be very slow movement, so add another keyframe here and add one keyframe here and one keyframe here. Now rest of things are fine. Now what you have to do, just move the keyframe, just add more space in between these keyframe. So because if you add more space in between that keyframe, you'll get very, what we call, you will get very slow animation because the timing is little far. So you can add more timing like this, is one method. If you just play, I think this is very slow, the beginning also, so you can move your first keyframe, and also you can adjust your keyframe, the total keyframe into the total animation will end at 60 frames or 65 frames. So I'll tell you one thing, Cinema 4D, these kind of 3D softwares, it's all about experiments. So just change the value until you will get the actual result, or when until you are happy, just change the keyframe values, and I think this is fine. The animation will end at 70 and 69th frame. I think you have to adjust a little bit more. So now you are done. Now if you watch this video, you can see actually color gradient also it's flowing, but in our version it's stretching. To avoid that, select this material, and here you can adjust the length, the total length. So just increase the total length and it is 600 or 700. Add a keyframe at the beginning and maybe 18th frame. Just make the length value into default, that means 100%. Add a keyframe. So you can remove the color stretching problem also with this technique. So actually I don't know this technique, but I just chat with EJ on Twitter, so he replied me, that's why I know, otherwise it's not possible to create this tutorial without EJ's help. So he's really cool person. Just watch his iDesign YouTube channel, you will get a lot of tutorial based on the Cinema 4D. Anyway, I'm going to adjust this gradient color here also, and I think it's too fast, it's not a free flow. So just adjust your keyframe position. Also you can change the F curve of this animation into linear. Right now it's a easy ease, so change into linear. So select the old keyframe, it's not, click here, this is a linear. Now you can close. I think still you can see there are some problem, so change this keyframe into little bit behind. I think now you are almost ready. Now the problem at the beginning, it has to beginning with our leaf, then only these shapes. Select all this keyframe, just move into, it has to be start from 15th second. So change the, select all keyframe and move. Now just add the same to animation keyframe, and it has to be ended 100% at the 15th frame. Now the animation will start. Now the problem, right click and show F curve. Sorry, just select this spline warp polygon, show F curve, then just change this graph into something like this, because it's animation principle. It will start very slow, then it will hit very harder. Now you can see that effects, you can feel that effects. I think you have to adjust this timing a little bit. So select the leaf spline warp and change the second keyframe into around 20, 90, 19 or 20. I think this is fine. Okay, we are done with our animation and everything. Now the problem, one more last problem. You can see the shapes here. So go to the first frame and basic, then change the visible in editor on and visible render on. Also add a 2 keyframe. Just go back 1 keyframe, then just turn everything off. Now you can't see that shape before the animation start. So these are very simple technique you can apply in your projects, very basics only. See, we got our animation, everything ready. Now to render this, the basic method, open After Effects, create a new composition, and I'm going to create a new background. So before that, just drag and drop your Cinema 4D file into After Effects, because actually you can bridge your Cinema 4D with After Effects with Cineware. It's really cool features. And just create a new solid and drag and drop your Cinema 4D file into timeline. It's too big, our timeline. So press N, Control Shift X to trim the timeline. And yeah, let's create a background color. So I'm going to apply a 4-color gradient, and also the sleek apple colors is a white and gray. Now you can see the timeline and the viewport and everything on here. So just change the Cineware setting, the render setting into current, not viewport. The display has to be current shading and the render has to be current. Then you will get the proper animation here. You don't have to render from Cinema 4D, you can render from After Effects. It's much faster. So here is your animation. So next tutorial I will teach you how to use the logo animation on your footage. See, something like this. So you have to track your footage, you have to apply this animation. That's also, anyway, on the next tutorial I will explain everything detail. So stay tuned.